The evening had fallen over downtown Atlanta like a slow exhale. Streetlights flickered to life, stretching long golden reflections across the wet pavement. The air smelled of rain and gasoline, and in that silver blur of headlights and shadows, a small figure stood near a crosswalk. She was a little black girl, no older than 8, her backpack patched and her braids glistening with water. She was waiting for the light to change when she saw something strange. A sleek black van had stopped beside a silver sedan near the closed florist's shop. 2 men stepped out quickly. One wore gloves even though the night was warm. The other held a scarf. Inside the silver car, through the window streaked with rain, a young girl sat motionless. Her pale hair shimmered like glass. Her eyes did not focus on anything. Then the little girl realized why. The other girl was blind. The men opened the door. One spoke sharply, his voice muffled by the sound of the rain. "Now." The blind girl hesitated, clutching her cane. Then one of the men grabbed her arm too hard, forcing her into the van. For a heartbeat, the world froze. The little girl's chest tightened. She had seen enough movies to know what a kidnapping looked like. But this was not a movie. This was happening across the street. Her heart pounded so loud she could feel it in her throat. The light turned green, but she did not move. Her voice came out before her fear could stop it. "Hey, leave her alone." The words broke through the night like a siren. The men froze. One turned his head toward her. For a flash of a second, his eyes met hers cold, startled, angry. Then the van door slammed. Tires screeched. The vehicle sped away, splashing water high into the air. She stumbled backward, soaked by the spray. A driver honked somewhere behind her, but she barely heard it. The sound of the engine faded into the distance, leaving only the rain and the echo of her own voice trembling in her ears. Her small hands shook as she pulled an old phone from her pocket, its screen cracked but still glowing faintly. She tried to remember the license plate. 7, something, T, she whispered, pressing the emergency number. Her voice cracked when the dispatcher answered. "A girl. They took a girl. She cannot see. Please help." The operator asked her to stay calm, to describe what she saw, but the van was already gone. She turned in a slow circle, scanning the street for anyone who might have noticed, but the pedestrians kept walking, umbrellas tilted against the rain, faces down, headphones in. No one else had seen. Only her. For a moment she stood frozen under the flickering streetlight, the rain falling harder now, washing through her braids and down her cheeks. Then, with a deep shaky breath, she whispered to herself, "I saw her. That means I can find her." She tightened the straps of her backpack, looked down the road where the van had vanished, and began to run. Each step splashed through puddles like small explosions. Behind her, the city carried on, unaware that an 8-year-old girl had just decided to chase down a crime that grown men had caused. Ahead of her, the street curved into darkness, and in that darkness, courage began to take shape. Rain dripped from the awning of the small corner store as the little black girl slowed her run, panting hard. Her sneakers squished with every step, soaked through. She clutched her cracked phone tightly, replaying the dispatcher's words in her mind. "Stay where you are. Help is on the way." But no one came. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Cars kept moving, headlights cutting through the mist like ghosts. People hurried by, avoiding eye contact. She looked back down the empty street where the van had vanished. The puddles already blurred its tire marks. Her chest hurt from running, but her heart hurt worse from knowing the world could just go on as if nothing had happened. She whispered to herself, "If I were her, I would want someone to keep looking." She turned and started walking toward the direction the van had gone, her small frame nearly swallowed by the fog. She followed clues the way children follow stories. A broken signpost near the intersection, a crumpled napkin caught in the curbside grate, a faint smear of oil across the pavement. They were small things, maybe nothing, but they felt like something to her. Her grandmother used to say, "When no one listens to you, listen harder to the world." So she did. Half a mile down, the streets changed. The stores became warehouses. The lights grew fewer. She shivered as a truck rumbled past, spraying dirty water against her legs. A man in a gray coat leaned against a doorway watching her. She lowered her gaze and kept walking. The sound of rain against tin roofs filled the silence. When her phone buzzed, she nearly dropped it. It was an unknown number, but the voice was official. "This is Officer Ramirez. You reported an abduction. Where are you now?" She gave her location quickly, describing everything she had seen: the van, the license plate, the girl with the white cane. The officer thanked her and told her to stay put until patrol arrived. But when she looked around, the thought of waiting there in the dark made her stomach twist. What if they never found the van? What if the girl needed her now? She hesitated, gripping her backpack straps. "I am not waiting," she whispered, and started walking again. A police cruiser passed her minutes later, lights flashing blue and red. She waved frantically, but the car turned down another street. She kept moving, now on the edge of the industrial district where the air smelled of metal and smoke. A large delivery dock came into view. She hid behind a stack of crates as a black van, different, but the same shape, pulled in. Her breath caught. Two men stepped out, both wearing jackets with the same dark emblem on the sleeve. She squinted, trying to see if one of them was the same from before. One reached into the back and dragged a tarp over something inside. It might have been boxes. It might have been worse. Her knees trembled. She crouched lower, her heartbeat loud in her ears. Then her phone buzzed again. The sound sliced through the quiet. She froze. The men stopped talking. One turned his head. "You hear that?" Her stomach dropped. She silenced the phone and pressed herself against the cold wall, not daring to breathe. Footsteps echoed closer. A flashlight beam swept across the puddles, climbing the boxes. She squeezed her eyes shut. A dog barked somewhere down the street, breaking the tension. "Probably just a stray," one man said, and the light moved away. She waited until their voices faded, then slowly exhaled. Her palms were sweaty, her body shaking, but her mind stayed clear. She needed proof. Carefully, she peeked again. One of the men was on the phone now, pacing. "Yes, we have her. The boss will handle the rest tonight." Her heart skipped. The words hit her like thunder. They had the blind girl. She bit her lip to stop from gasping. She fumbled for her phone and snapped a picture through the gap between crates. The flash did not go off, thank God. Then she saw it, the license plate. It matched the one she had tried to remember. Her hands trembled as she typed the number into her notes, spelling each digit to make sure she would not forget. 745T9K. She repeated it under her breath like a prayer. But as she stepped back, her shoe slipped in the puddle. The sound was small, but it was enough. One man looked over sharply. "Who is there?" The flashlight swept again. She darted behind another stack and pressed herself flat against the wall. Her backpack brushed a metal pipe, making a dull clang. The men cursed and started walking her way. Fear surged, but something stronger rose beneath it, the memory of the blind girl's face, the way she had looked so helpless. The little girl gritted her teeth. She spotted a small alley to her left. Without another thought, she ran. Water splashed under her feet as she sprinted between dumpsters, turned a corner, and burst into a wider street filled with traffic. Car horns blared. Someone shouted. She kept running until the sound of pursuit disappeared. When she finally stopped under the bright sign of a diner, she was gasping for air. Inside, people stared. She ignored them and ran straight to the payphone near the entrance. Her fingers shook as she dialed the emergency number again. "This is Anna," she said, her voice steady despite her trembling lips. "I saw the van again. I have the number. They are in the warehouse district near Maple Street. Please hurry." The operator's tone changed immediately. "Stay where you are, Anna. Officers are on the way." She nodded even though the person could not see her. For the first time that night, she felt the smallest flicker of hope. She looked back toward the dark streets beyond the glass, rain still falling in silver lines, and whispered, "Hold on. I am not giving up on you." Then she clutched her backpack to her chest and waited for the sirens to come. The flashing red and blue lights arrived like a breath she had been holding all night. 2 patrol cars screeched to a stop near the diner, sending waves of water across the street. Anna stepped outside before anyone could ask her name again. The rain had slowed to a mist, but the chill still bit at her fingers. A tall officer approached, his voice firm but kind. "You are the one who called?" She nodded, clutching her backpack. "I saw them. I have the number. They took a girl who cannot see." The officer crouched to her level, pen poised over his notebook. "Tell me everything you remember, sweetheart." Slowly, her voice shook at first, then grew steadier as she recounted every detail: the black van, the two men, the blind girl with pale hair, the warehouse near Maple Street. She spelled out the license plate one letter at a time, careful not to skip a single one. The officer's brow furrowed. He radioed something to the car and listened. A voice crackled back through the static, confirming the match to a vehicle flagged in an ongoing investigation. The officer looked at Anna, surprised. "You did good, kid. Very good." She swallowed hard. "Can we go now? She needs help." The officer exchanged a glance with his partner. "We are getting backup. You will stay here where it is safe." But Anna's eyes filled with tears of frustration. "If I wait, they will move her again." The older officer sighed. "I cannot take a child into a raid. You understand that, right?" She looked down, silent, her small fists clenched at her sides. The diner door opened behind them, and a man stepped out, his expensive coat shielding him from the drizzle. His face was pale, lined with exhaustion and panic. "Where is she? Where is my daughter?" The officer straightened instantly. "Mr. Bennett, we are handling it." Anna turned. The man's voice was sharp, commanding, but behind it trembled fear. She recognized the last name, Bennett. She had heard it once before on the news, attached to words like billionaire, investor, and tech magnate. Now he just looked like a father unraveling. "You know something about my daughter?" he demanded. She nodded. "I saw her. The men put her in a van. I followed them." His eyes widened. "You what?" "I followed them until I found where they went," she said quickly. "I took pictures. I heard them say your name." She pulled out her phone, hands shaking as she scrolled through to the blurry photo of the warehouse. The officer leaned over to see. "This matches the location we have, sir," he said to Mr. Bennett. "We will move in as soon as we get the warrant." Bennett's jaw tightened. "Then what are you waiting for?" "Protocol, sir," the officer replied. "We cannot go in blind." Anna looked up. "She is the one who is blind," she said softly. The words hit Bennett like a blow. For a moment he could not speak. Then he turned to the officer. "I am going there." The officer blocked his path. "You will wait, sir." "No," Bennett snapped. "If that were your child, would you wait?" The silence that followed was heavy, filled only by the hum of rain. The officer finally exhaled and handed him a bulletproof vest from the trunk. "Stay behind us. No heroics." Bennett nodded once. He looked down at Anna. "You stay here." But Anna shook her head, her voice trembling but sure. "You will not find it without me. I know which warehouse. There are 3, and only one has lights on." The officer hesitated. Bennett's eyes searched her face, seeing something fierce and unyielding in her small expression. "You are not scared?" he asked. "Yes," she admitted, "but she is more scared." Bennett ran a hand over his face, then said quietly, "Get in the car." They drove in silence, the city sliding past in streaks of gray. The police convoy followed, tires slicing through shallow puddles. Bennett gripped the steering wheel tightly. "What is your name?" he asked finally. "Anna," she replied. "How old are you, Anna?" 8, she said, then added, "But I am brave." Something softened in his eyes at that. "Yes, you are," he said. The radio crackled with updates as they neared Maple Street. Officers coordinated positions, engines idled, weapons checked. Bennett's stomach twisted. Anna pointed through the windshield. "That one, the one with the broken sign." The lead car rolled to a stop. Officers poured out, moving into formation. Bennett tried to follow, but one held him back. "Stay in the car, sir." Anna pressed her palms against the glass, watching the dark warehouse loom ahead. Shadows moved behind the dusty windows. Then, faintly, through the crack in the door, she saw a flicker of white, the glint of a cane. Her breath caught. "She is in there," she whispered. Before anyone could stop her, she opened the door and ran. "Anna!" Bennett shouted, stumbling after her. The officers surged forward, breaking the door open. The sound of shouting filled the air, echoing through the metal walls. Anna ducked behind a stack of crates, scanning the gloom. "It is okay," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I am here." From the far side of the room came a faint answer. "Who are you?" It was the blind girl's voice, small and frightened. Anna moved closer, her sneakers silent on the dusty floor. "I am Anna. Your dad is here. You are safe now." Before she could reach her, a man stepped from the shadows, anger etched on his face. "You little," he started, but the words were drowned by the shouts of police. Flashlights cut through the darkness. The man froze, then bolted for the back door. Officers tackled him before he could escape. The room exploded with light and sound. But in the center of it all, two children clung to each other, one blind, one brave. Bennett ran to them, dropping to his knees beside them. "Lila," he whispered, his voice breaking. The blind girl reached out, touching his face with trembling fingers. "Daddy?" "Yes, baby. Yes, I am here." Anna stood beside them, her small frame shivering, eyes wet but steady. Bennett turned to her, overwhelmed. "You saved her," he said softly. She shook her head. "I just did what someone should have done." Outside, the rain finally stopped, and for the first time that night, the city felt quiet. The warehouse smelled of oil, dust, and old wood. Flashlights moved through the dark like restless fireflies. Officers were gathering evidence while others escorted the arrested men outside. Anna stood near the open doorway, soaked again from the mist, her shoes squishing against the floor. She kept her hands tight around the straps of her backpack as if it were the only thing keeping her steady. Lila, the blind girl, sat wrapped in a gray blanket. Her small fingers brushed along the fabric nervously, as if trying to see through touch. Her father, Mr. Bennett, knelt beside her, one arm around her shoulders, whispering words Anna could barely hear. The rain outside had stopped completely now, leaving a low fog that clung to the streets. The flashing police lights turned the mist red and blue, like the city was breathing again after holding its breath too long. An officer approached Anna and crouched down. "You did something very brave tonight," he said quietly. She nodded but did not smile. "Will she be okay?" she asked, glancing toward Lila. The officer nodded. "She will, thanks to you." Then he added, "Your grandmother must be worried. Can we call her?" Anna hesitated. Her voice was small but steady. "She is sleeping. I will go home after." The officer frowned slightly but did not push further. He handed her a bottle of water. "Drink, kiddo." She took it politely and whispered, "Thank you." Across the room, Mr. Bennett looked up. His sharp, commanding voice was now replaced by something quieter. "Officer, could we have a minute?" The man nodded and walked away. Bennett stood, straightened his jacket, and walked toward Anna. The weight of everything that had happened showed in his eyes. When he stopped in front of her, she looked up at him, unsure whether she should speak. "Anna," he said, his tone gentle. "That is your name, right?" She nodded. "Yes, sir." He studied her face, this small stranger who had done what adults had not. "How did you know to follow them?" he asked softly. She looked down, then said, "Because no one else did. I thought maybe I was supposed to." He was silent for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "You are right. Sometimes we wait for the world to act, and it never does." His voice broke slightly on the last word. Anna shifted her feet. "I just wanted her to be safe," she said. Bennett took a deep breath and looked toward his daughter, who was now smiling faintly under a blanket, whispering to a female officer who was checking her pulse. "You did more than that," he said finally. "You gave her back her life." Anna blinked, not sure what to say. Bennett motioned for her to come closer. "I think she wants to thank you herself." Lila turned her head at the sound of footsteps. "Anna?" she said softly. Anna froze. "How do you know my name?" Lila smiled a little. "My dad just told me. Can I hold your hand?" Anna stepped closer, hesitating only a second before taking Lila's outstretched hand. It was warm and gentle. "You are brave," Lila whispered. "I knew someone was there. I could feel you even when I could not see you." Anna swallowed hard. "You are brave too. You did not scream." Lila laughed softly, a sound like glass chimes. "I wanted to, but I heard your voice. It made me feel safe." "Mr." Bennett stood beside them. watching the two girls with a look that was half wonder, half guilt. He said quietly, "Lila, we are going home now. The doctors will check on you. Anna, would you come with us? Just for a bit. You should warm up." Anna shook her head quickly. "I am fine. I have to get home." Bennett crouched so he could meet her eyes. "Where is home, Anna?" She hesitated. "Down on 9th Street, near the bridge." His expression changed. "That is not a good area this late." "It is okay," she said softly. "My grandma says angels walk that street too." Bennett smiled sadly. "Maybe they do. Maybe one of them has braids and sneakers full of rain." She giggled shyly, unsure how to respond. The officer came back, holding a clipboard. "We will take statements at the station," he said. "Mr. Bennett, a car will take your daughter and you to the hospital for a quick checkup. We can drive the girl home after." Bennett looked at Anna. "That sounds fair. You can trust them." She nodded. Lila reached for Anna's hand again. "Will I see you again?" she asked. Anna thought for a moment. "Maybe. If you listen close enough, you will hear me." Lila smiled. "Then I will listen." As they were led to the waiting vehicles, the city around them began to wake from its foggy silence. Distant sirens faded, replaced by the hum of early traffic. Anna sat quietly in the back of the patrol car, watching through the window as Mr. Bennett's sleek car pulled away, lights reflecting off the wet street. She felt both heavy and light inside, a strange mix she did not have words for. The officer glanced at her in the mirror. "You sure you will be all right, kid?" She nodded. "I will." "You have anyone at home?" he asked. "Just my grandma. She is old but strong," Anna said proudly. "She always says the world is not as cold as it looks if you keep walking." The officer smiled. "Smart woman." They turned onto 9th Street, where the lights were dimmer and the buildings older. The patrol car stopped near a small brick house with a sagging porch. Anna thanked him politely, then stepped out, the air cool against her skin. She turned once more toward the distant skyline, where the tall buildings shimmered under the weak glow of dawn. Somewhere in one of those towers, the billionaire and his daughter were safe. Anna pulled her hood up and whispered, "Good night, Lila," even though morning had already come. Then she climbed the steps to her porch, her sneakers squeaking softly, and slipped quietly inside. The city exhaled, and for a moment, peace returned. Morning sunlight spilled through the thin curtains of Anna's small room, painting the cracked wall with a pale gold. She stirred under the old quilt, the one her grandmother had sewn from leftover fabric, each square a memory of some other day. Her eyes blinked open to the sound of a kettle whistling and the faint hum of a radio playing gospel music from the kitchen. For a moment she wondered if everything from last night had been a dream, a wild story she might have imagined. But when she sat up, her backpack lay by the door, still damp from the rain, and inside it the phone glowed faintly with a missed call notification from an unknown number. She rubbed her eyes and listened to her grandmother humming softly as she poured tea. "You are up early," her grandmother said when Anna walked in. The older woman's eyes, wise and tired, studied her granddaughter carefully. "You look like you fought a storm." Anna gave a small smile. "Kind of." Her grandmother raised an eyebrow. "Kind of?" Anna sat at the table, her hands wrapped around the warm cup. She hesitated, trying to find words that would make sense. "There was a girl," she said slowly. "She could not see. Some men took her. I followed them." Her grandmother froze mid-stir. "Anna," she said softly, "what do you mean you followed them? You did not go out alone last night?" Anna nodded, eyes lowered. "The police came. They found her. She is safe now." The room went quiet except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. Then her grandmother sighed, relief mixing with disbelief. "Lord have mercy. You could have been hurt." Anna looked up, her voice gentle but sure. "But she would have been hurt worse if no one helped." The old woman stared at her for a long moment, then reached out and cupped her cheek. "You have the same heart your mother had," she whispered. "Too brave for your own good." Anna smiled faintly. "I think it is a good kind of brave." Her grandmother chuckled softly, the sound trembling like old paper. "Maybe so." A knock came at the door just then, sharp and unexpected. Anna jumped, spilling a little tea. Her grandmother frowned and went to open it. On the porch stood a man in a clean suit, holding an envelope. "Good morning," he said politely. "I am here on behalf of Mr. Bennett." The grandmother blinked. "Who?" "Mr. Thomas Bennett," the man explained. "He asked me to deliver this to a young lady named Anna." He handed over the envelope and nodded. "He also asked that I make sure you know she is safe and greatly appreciated." The grandmother turned, eyes wide, and handed it to Anna. The girl stared at her name, written neatly on the front. Inside was a simple note on heavy paper. It read, "Thank you for saving my daughter. We would like to see you again. Thomas Bennett." Tucked inside the folded paper was something else, a small silver bracelet with the letter L engraved on it. Anna touched it gently, her eyes bright. "It is from Lila," she whispered. Her grandmother's expression softened. "They must care about you, baby." Anna nodded. "She said she would listen for me. Maybe this means she did." Her grandmother smiled, though worry lingered beneath it. "If they want to meet again, it should be proper. You call them, and I will go with you," Anna agreed, clutching the bracelet as if it might disappear. Later that afternoon, after school, a black car rolled up to their street. The driver stepped out and opened the door with a polite nod. Anna's grandmother straightened her hat and whispered, "Mind your manners, baby. These are people who live in a different world." Anna nodded, holding her grandmother's hand tightly as they climbed in. The ride through the city was quiet, filled with the hum of tires on asphalt. Tall glass buildings replaced the small houses. When the car stopped, Anna's eyes widened. The Bennett estate stood like a piece of another world, white stone, arched windows, gardens trimmed so neatly it looked unreal. Lila was waiting by the fountain, her cane beside her, her face turning toward the sound of the car door. When Anna stepped out, Lila smiled instantly. "I knew it was you," she said. Anna ran to her, careful not to startle her, and took her hand. "You really can tell?" Lila nodded. "I remembered your voice." Mr. Bennett stood nearby, watching the reunion quietly. He greeted Anna's grandmother respectfully, thanking her for allowing the visit. Then he knelt down to Anna's level. "I meant what I wrote," he said sincerely. "You changed everything for us." Anna blushed slightly. "I just did what anyone should do." Bennett shook his head. "No, not anyone. Most people would have looked away." Lila lifted her hand toward Anna. "I told Daddy you were like a light. He said sometimes the smallest lights show up where no one expects them." Anna smiled shyly. Mr. Bennett reached into his coat and handed Anna a small wrapped box. "A thank you gift," he said. "Not for the rescue, but for reminding me that courage does not always wear a suit." Inside was a small wooden music box with tiny carved stars. When she wound it up, a soft melody began to play, the same tune that had filled the warehouse when Lila's kidnappers had left the radio on by accident. It sent chills through Anna, but in a good way now. Lila reached out and touched the box, smiling. "That sound feels safe again." Anna nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "It does." Mr. Bennett looked at both girls, his expression filled with something more than gratitude. It was respect. "Anna," he said gently, "I would like to help you and your grandmother if you will let me. Nothing big. Maybe a better school, a scholarship." Anna blinked in surprise, glancing at her grandmother, who looked both proud and hesitant. "We do not take charity," her grandmother said firmly. Bennett nodded with understanding. "Then consider it an investment in kindness." Anna grinned, her eyes shining. "We will think about it," she said. As they stood there, the fountain behind them sparkled in the sunlight, and the two girls laughed softly, their hands still joined. For the first time, both families, one rich, one humble, shared the same quiet truth, that courage, when given freely, can turn strangers into something almost like family. The following morning, the Bennett mansion was alive with quiet movement. The smell of fresh coffee and polished wood filled the wide halls as sunlight stretched across marble floors. Anna sat nervously at the edge of an elegant sofa, her backpack on her lap, feet barely touching the rug. Her grandmother sat beside her, composed but cautious, her hands folded neatly over her purse. Across from them, Mr. Bennett was speaking softly to an assistant before turning his full attention to the two visitors who had changed his world. "I hope the ride was comfortable," he said politely. Anna nodded, her eyes wandering to the tall windows that looked out over the garden. "It was very nice," she said, her voice small but clear. Her grandmother smiled gently. "Your home is beautiful, Mr. Bennet, like something out of one of her storybooks." He chuckled lightly. "It is just a house, ma'am. It was never really a home until lately." His eyes softened when he looked toward the doorway where Lila appeared, her cane tapping softly against the floor. She wore a pale blue dress, her hair brushed neatly, her face brighter than before. When she heard Anna's breath catch, she smiled. "You are here," she said happily, moving carefully toward the sound of Anna's voice. "You sound happy," Anna said, standing up quickly to take her hand. "I am. I had a dream last night that we were walking somewhere sunny," Lila said with a grin. "I could feel the grass under my feet." "Maybe that means you should go outside today," Anna replied. Lila turned toward her father. "Can we?" Mr. Bennet smiled. "Of course." The two girls walked slowly through the open glass doors that led to the garden, their hands clasped. The morning air was warm, carrying the scent of roses and fresh earth. Anna guided Lila along the stone path, describing the colors she saw: the white lilies, the yellow tulips, the little robin perched on the fence. Lila listened, her head tilted, her smile serene. "You make it sound like music," she said. "Maybe because everything is singing today," Anna replied softly. Inside the house, Mr. Bennet stood at the window, watching them. He exhaled deeply, as though releasing a weight he had carried for too long. Anna's grandmother joined him quietly. "She reminds me of someone," he said. "Of what I used to be, before everything became about numbers and meetings." The old woman nodded knowingly. "Children do that. They show us what we forgot to feel." He smiled faintly. "Do you mind if I ask how have you managed, you and Anna?" She adjusted her shawl. "We get by. I have my late husband's pension, and I clean houses sometimes. Anna helps at the library after school. She has always been the kind of child who helps before anyone asks." Bennett's gaze followed the girls as they stopped near the fountain, the same one where Lila had first smiled since the night she was found. "She should not have to grow up too fast," he said quietly. "Neither of them should," the grandmother sighed. "Life does not always ask what should be, but she has her faith. That keeps her steady." Outside, Lila crouched to touch the water, her reflection rippling. "It feels alive," she said, laughing. Anna knelt beside her. It is always moving, like time. Time feels different when you cannot see it," Lila said. "But I can hear it. It sounds like your voice when you laugh." Anna blushed. "Then I will laugh more often." When they returned to the terrace, Mr. Bennet had arranged a small lunch under the awning. Sandwiches, lemonade, fruit simple but warm. He pulled out a chair for Anna's grandmother and sat across from them. "Anna," he began gently, "I have been thinking about what we spoke of yesterday. I meant what I said about helping you both. I would like to offer a scholarship to a private academy. It has art, music, and science, all the things every child should have access to." Anna looked at her grandmother, unsure. The older woman gave a slow nod. "It would mean a lot, baby. You have worked hard for everything." Anna turned to Bennet. "Will I still get to see Lila?" He smiled. "That is the best part. It is the same school she attends. I think she would like that." Lila clapped her hands together, delighted. "We can have lunch together and learn things and maybe even start a club." Anna grinned. "The Brave Club. The Brave Club," Lila repeated, laughing. The sound carried through the garden like wind through leaves. Bennett's assistant appeared with some documents for signatures. The grandmother looked at them carefully, reading each line before signing. "We are not used to fancy papers," she said. "But if it helps her, I will trust you." Bennet nodded respectfully. "I promise, ma'am, it will." As the afternoon sunlight deepened, the two girls sat under the big oak tree at the far end of the garden, eating cookies and whispering secrets. "You know," Lila said softly, "I think bravery is not about not being scared." "What is it about then?" Anna asked. "It is about doing the right thing even when you are," Lila said. Anna smiled. "Then we are both brave." Lila nodded. "And maybe someday, when I can see again, I will tell you what your kindness looks like." Anna's heart warmed at the words. "You already know," she whispered. "It looks like light." From the terrace, Mr. Bennet watched them again, his expression calm, almost at peace. He knew that somewhere between the fear of losing his daughter and the courage of a little stranger, his own heart had been rescued too. The fountain splashed gently, the sunlight danced on the surface, and for that moment, everything in the world seemed right. It had been 3 weeks since Anna and her grandmother had visited the Bennet mansion, and life had begun to change in small, beautiful ways. Every morning, a black car arrived on 9th Street to take Anna to her new school. She still carried her old backpack, worn and stitched, because she said it made her feel like herself. The private academy was larger than anything she had ever imagined, with wide hallways and tall glass windows that let in so much sunlight it almost felt like standing inside a dream. Lila was there too, walking beside her with her white cane, her steps more confident each day. They had lunch together under the same oak tree that stood in the schoolyard, laughing and whispering about things no one else could hear. But even as the new days unfolded, a shadow lingered quietly around them, like a storm cloud waiting for the wind. One Thursday afternoon, Anna noticed Mr. Bennet's driver waiting outside the school gates, not with the usual calm expression but with visible tension. When she climbed into the car with her grandmother after class, the driver cleared his throat. "Mr. Bennet asked me to take you both to his office downtown. It is important." Anna's grandmother frowned slightly but nodded. The ride felt longer than usual, the city buzzing past in streaks of gray and gold. When they arrived at the tall building, Mr. Bennet was already waiting in the lobby, his face tight, the lines around his eyes deeper. "Something is wrong," Anna said quietly. He nodded, motioning them to follow him into a private conference room. "One of the men arrested from the kidnapping," he began carefully, "was released on bail yesterday. The authorities are still investigating, but I wanted you to hear it from me." Anna froze, her heart thudding hard. Her grandmother's hand tightened around hers. "You mean the one who took Lila?" she asked. "One of them," Bennet said grimly. "He denies everything, claims it was a misunderstanding, but I do not trust that story." The air in the room felt heavy, like the calm before thunder. "Will he come back?" Anna asked in a small voice. Bennet shook his head. "No one will come near you. I have already arranged protection." But Anna's eyes searched his face, reading what adults sometimes tried to hide. She could tell he was worried, not just for his daughter but for all of them. Later that evening, back at the mansion, Lila sat in the music room playing softly on the piano. The melody floated through the halls, light but trembling, like a voice unsure if it would be heard. Anna sat beside her, listening. "You play so beautifully," she said. "It sounds like hope." Lila smiled faintly. "Daddy says music helps him think. But lately he just stands by the window and forgets to listen." Anna looked toward the doorway where Mr. Bennet's shadow lingered, tall and still. He had been on the phone for most of the evening, his voice low and tense. Something inside Anna stirred the same feeling that had pushed her to act that night on the street. She whispered, "He is scared for you." Lila stopped playing. "Are you scared?" Anna thought for a moment. "Maybe. But scared does not mean we stop." "You always say that," Lila said, her smile returning. "And you are always right." Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the glass. Mr. Bennet hung up the phone and walked into the room. His expression softened when he saw them. "You two could light up the darkest place," he said. "That song sounds like a promise." "It is," Anna replied. "It means we are safe." He nodded, though his eyes still held worry. "Then I will believe that." But late that night, as the house settled into silence, the unease grew stronger. The security lights flickered once in the backyard. A faint noise came from the gate, metal against metal. One of the guards walked over to check but found nothing unusual. Still, Anna could not sleep. She sat up in the guest room where she was staying, listening to the soft ticking of the clock. The air felt different, thicker. She slipped quietly from her bed, careful not to wake her grandmother, and peeked out the window. The yard looked calm, but her instincts whispered otherwise. Down the hall, she saw a sliver of light under Lila's door. She knocked gently. "You are awake too?" Lila asked when Anna entered. "Could not sleep," Anna whispered. "Something feels strange." Lila tilted her head, listening. Do you hear that? It was faint at first, a sound like footsteps on gravel. Anna's heart quickened. She moved to the window again. A figure stood near the back gate, half hidden by the hedge. She could not see his face, but something about his posture made her blood run cold. "Stay here," she whispered to Lila. "Do not move." "Anna, no," Lila said quickly, reaching for her hand, but Anna squeezed it gently. "I will just tell the guard. It is okay." She stepped into the hallway, her bare feet silent on the polished floor. The air smelled faintly of rain again, though the night was clear. She made her way to the security office near the kitchen, where one of the guards was dozing in his chair. "Someone is outside," she said urgently. The man blinked, startled. "Where?" "By the back gate." He grabbed his flashlight and headed out quickly, with Anna following a few steps behind. The yard stretched wide and quiet under the moonlight. The guard swept his light across the fence, revealing nothing but grass and stone. "Probably a stray dog," he said, turning back. But then a noise came from behind the storage shed, a rustle, followed by the metallic click of something falling. The guard raised his flashlight again. "Who is there?" he shouted. A dark shape darted away, disappearing into the trees. He ran after it, yelling into his radio. Anna stood frozen for a second, her pulse racing. Then she turned and ran back toward the house. In the hallway, Lila was waiting, her face pale. "What happened?" "Someone was here," Anna whispered. "But the guard saw him. It will be okay." Lila nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. Mr. Bennett appeared moments later, pulling a robe over his shirt. "What is going on?" he demanded. The guard returned, out of breath. "We lost him, sir, but he dropped something." He held up a folded paper. Bennett took it, his face hardening as he read the words. "Tell your little hero we are not finished." The silence that followed was thick and cold. Anna's grandmother appeared in the doorway, clutching her shawl. "Lord protect us," she whispered. Bennett looked at Anna, his voice low but firm. "No one is leaving this house until I know you are safe." Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, though no storm had been forecast, and the air itself seemed to hold its breath. The night after the threat note arrived, the Bennett house no longer felt like the safe haven it had been. The guards doubled their patrols, new locks were placed on every door, and Mr. Bennett stayed awake long after the others had gone to bed, pacing the halls with worry carved deep into his face. Rain returned that night, light at first, then steady, tapping against the tall windows like 1,000 quiet warnings. Anna lay awake in the guest room again, unable to close her eyes. Every shadow seemed to shift, every creak in the walls made her heart jump. Her grandmother slept in the next room, but even that comfort felt far away. She turned toward the small bracelet on her nightstand, the one with the letter L, and whispered, "It will be okay." But she was not sure she believed it. Down the hall, Lila was awake too. She sat in her bed, her cane beside her, listening to the sound of rain and distant thunder. Her father had promised her she was safe, but fear has a way of finding its way even into words meant to protect. She thought of Anna and how brave she had been that night on the street. A sudden sound broke the quiet, a muffled noise from outside, something soft but heavy, like a door closing where no door should be. Lila's head lifted. "Daddy?" she called softly. No answer. "Anna?" Still silence. Her heart started to beat faster. She reached for her cane and felt her way toward the door, her hands trembling. In the hallway, the lights flickered once, then steadied. The rain outside grew louder, mixed with wind that howled through the cracks. She turned toward the faint sound of movement downstairs. "Is someone there?" she whispered. At that same moment, Anna sat up in bed. She had heard it too. A soft thud, then another, from the lower level of the house. She jumped out of bed, pulling on her sweater and slipping her small feet into her shoes. She tiptoed down the hall and nearly ran into Lila. "I heard something," Anna whispered. "Me too," Lila said. "It is downstairs." Anna looked around, the hallway empty. "Stay behind me," she said gently, taking Lila's hand. They moved carefully down the grand staircase, the wooden steps creaking under their weight. The house was dim, the glow from the outside lights barely enough to show the outlines of furniture. As they reached the foyer, Anna froze. The back door near the kitchen stood slightly open, swaying with the wind. "He is here," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Who?" Lila asked, clutching her hand tighter. "One of them." Anna's mind raced. She knew they had to move fast. She guided Lila toward the nearest hiding spot, a small pantry off the kitchen, and pushed the door open. "Stay here," she said. Lila's hand held onto hers desperately. "Do not leave me." "I will not," Anna said softly. "I am just going to close the door." She squeezed her friend's hand, then stepped out, closing the pantry door quietly behind her. The air was heavy, the smell of rain mixed with something metallic, wet shoes on tile, maybe mud. She took a deep breath, her heart thundering in her chest. The faint outline of a man moved in the shadows near the living room. He was tall, wearing a dark coat, and he moved with caution, like he knew the house well. Anna crouched behind the counter, watching him. He glanced around, muttering something under his breath. "She has to be here," he whispered. Her pulse quickened. He was looking for Lila. She had to do something to get him away. She spotted a vase on the counter, heavy but small enough for her to lift. With one deep breath, she picked it up and threw it toward the far corner of the room. It hit the floor and shattered loudly. The man spun toward the noise. "Who is there?" he shouted. Anna ducked and crawled quickly behind the dining table. The man moved closer to the broken glass, flashlight beam cutting across the walls. Then she saw it, his face. It was the same man from the photograph the police had shown her weeks ago, the one who had grabbed Lila. Her breath caught, and she bit her lip to keep from crying out. He kicked the broken pieces aside and muttered, "I am not leaving without her." She needed help, but calling out might put Lila in danger. She looked toward the alarm panel on the wall, glowing faintly red. If she could reach it, the guards outside would hear. She crawled slowly across the floor, her palms slipping on the cold tile. Every sound felt too loud. The man turned suddenly, his flashlight sweeping dangerously close. "I know someone is in here," he said. "You should not have come back, little hero." The words froze her blood. He knew she was there. Anna stood up quickly and ran toward the alarm panel, slamming her hand against it. The siren blared to life, loud and sharp, echoing through every room. The man cursed, lunging forward. Anna stumbled backward, nearly losing her balance, but before he could reach her, a second noise filled the house, the sound of boots pounding against the porch. Guards burst through the front door, flashlights cutting through the chaos. The man spun toward them, but it was too late. "Freeze!" one of them shouted. The man tried to run, but the guards tackled him to the floor. Anna pressed herself against the wall, breathing hard, tears of relief mixing with sweat on her cheeks. Mr. Bennett came rushing down the stairs, his robe flying behind him. "Anna! Lila!" he shouted. "We are here!" Anna cried, running to him. He pulled her into a hug so tight she could barely breathe. "Are you hurt?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "Lila is in the pantry." He turned to one of the guards. "Get her." A moment later, Lila emerged, clutching her cane, her face pale but calm. "Anna?" she called. "I am here," Anna said, taking her hand. Lila squeezed it. "You saved me again." Anna looked at her and whispered, "No, you saved me. I just made noise." Mr. Bennett exhaled, overwhelmed with relief. He looked at the man being handcuffed by police. "I told you this house was protected," he said coldly. Then he looked at Anna, his eyes full of gratitude and disbelief. "You are extraordinary," he said softly. She shook her head. "I just could not stay still." Outside, the rain began to ease, and the first light of dawn crept across the sky. The storm had passed. But the bond between them had grown stronger, sealed by courage and faith. And in the quiet after the chaos, the little girl who had once chased a van into the dark had done it again. She had run toward fear and turned it into safety. When morning finally broke, the Bennett mansion was filled with the soft hum of police radios, the clatter of officers taking statements, and the faint aroma of coffee drifting from the kitchen. The storm had passed, but traces of chaos remained: muddy footprints on the marble floor, a shattered vase by the counter, and the lingering tremor of fear that even daylight could not completely erase. Anna sat wrapped in a blanket at the edge of the couch, her hair still damp, her eyes tired but alert. Lila sat beside her, holding her hand tightly, her other hand resting on her white cane. "Mr. Bennett stood near the fireplace, speaking in low tones to an officer who was taking notes. Every so often, he glanced at the girls, his face softening with gratitude and disbelief. The officer closed his notebook and said quietly, "He will not be coming back. He is being transferred to a federal facility this time. You are all safe." Mr. Bennett nodded. "Thank you, officer." As the police began to leave, the house grew quieter, the tension easing little by little. Anna exhaled slowly, leaning her head against the back of the couch. "It feels like it is finally over," she whispered. Lila smiled faintly. "It feels like breathing after holding it for too long." Their grandmother appeared from the kitchen carrying 2 mugs of warm milk. "Drink this," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "It will settle your nerves." Anna took hers with both hands. "Thank you, Grandma." The older woman brushed a strand of hair from Anna's forehead. "You are braver than most grown folks I know," she said softly. "But no more running into danger, you hear?" Anna managed a small laugh. "I hear." Mr. Bennett walked over and sat down across from them, his expression a mix of exhaustion and awe. "You two saved my daughter not once, but twice," he said quietly. "I do not even know how to begin thanking you." Anna shook her head. "You already did. You gave me and Grandma a chance. That is enough." He smiled. "Maybe for you, but not for me." He paused, his tone softening. "When I saw you standing there last night, pressing that alarm, I realized something. I have spent my life protecting things that did not matter: money, image, property. And yet it took an 8-year-old girl to show me what real protection means." Anna blushed slightly. "I just did not want anyone to get hurt. And because of that," Bennett said, "no one did." Lila reached over and squeezed Anna's hand. "You are my hero," she said with a grin. "No," Anna replied, smiling back. "We saved each other." Outside, the sky was pale blue, washed clean by the rain. The driveway glistened, puddles catching the morning light like pieces of glass. Bennett stood and walked to the window, his reflection faint against the glass. "I think we all need a little air," he said. "Would you like to go for a drive?" The girls nodded eagerly. The guards, now more alert than ever, prepared the car. A short while later, the sleek black sedan rolled through the city, leaving behind the mansion's tall gates. Anna pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching the buildings slide past, shops opening, people rushing to work, the world moving forward like nothing extraordinary had happened. Lila sat beside her, listening to the sounds, the engine's hum, the whisper of tires against wet streets. "You can tell when the world is waking up," she said softly. "It sounds like hope." Anna smiled. "It does, Mr." Bennett drove them to a quiet overlook on the edge of the city, where the skyline spread out like a painting. The air smelled of earth and pine, and the sun glimmered over the rooftops. They all stepped out, standing together in the gentle morning breeze. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Bennett said, "I used to come here with my wife when Lila was a baby. She loved watching the sunrise." His voice trembled slightly, but he steadied it. "She would have been proud of both of you." Lila turned toward the sound of his voice and reached for his hand. "I think she is proud right now," she said. Anna looked up at the sky. "It looks like she is smiling," she whispered. The wind stirred softly, brushing through their hair like a quiet answer. They stood that way for a while, 3 generations of strength, each shaped by love, loss, and courage. When they returned to the car, Bennett's phone buzzed. He answered, listening carefully before saying, "I understand. I will come in later." He hung up and looked at Anna. "The authorities want to question the man who broke in. Apparently, he is ready to talk." "About what?" Anna asked. "About who sent him," Bennett said, his expression tightening. He was not working alone. The words settled in the air like an unwelcome chill. "You mean there are more?" Lila asked quietly. Bennett nodded. "Possibly, but that is for me to handle. You girls have done enough." Anna's brows furrowed. "But we can help." "You already have," he said gently. "Now it is time for me to be the brave one." As the car drove back toward the city, the sunlight grew warmer, filling the cabin with a soft glow. Lila leaned her head on Anna's shoulder. "Do you think everything will ever be normal again?" she asked. Anna thought for a moment before replying. Maybe not normal, but maybe better. Lila smiled. Better sounds good. When they reached the mansion, reporters had already gathered outside the gate, their cameras flashing like bursts of lightning. Mr. Bennett sighed but kept his composure. Do not worry about them, he said. They want a story, but we know the truth. As the car pulled through the gate, Anna caught her reflection in the window, the same little girl from 9th Street. But something in her eyes had changed. They were steady now, stronger, filled with quiet fire. Lila squeezed her hand. Whatever happens next, she whispered, we face it together. Anna nodded. Together. And for the first time in a long while, the fear that had haunted them seemed smaller, outmatched by something brighter, something that no darkness could break. The days that followed were strangely calm, like the quiet that lingers after a storm but before anyone realizes what has been broken. The police continued their investigation, and Mr. Bennett spent long hours in meetings with lawyers and security officials. The news spread quickly, stories of the kidnapping, the break-in, and the mysterious little girl who had saved the billionaire's blind daughter twice. Cameras camped outside the mansion gates, and headlines called Anna a hero. But inside the house, things began to change. The warmth that had filled their days now seemed to fade under the weight of suspicion. One afternoon, as the girls sat at the piano, a knock came at the door. 2 detectives entered, polite but firm, asking to speak with Anna privately. Mr. Bennett was there, his face unreadable. Anna's grandmother stood protectively beside her. The taller detective adjusted his tie and spoke softly. Anna, we just need to clarify a few things. The man who broke into this house claims someone inside helped him. Do you know anything about that? Anna frowned, confused. Helped him? No. I saw him break in. The detective nodded but pressed on. He said he was given information about the layout of the property, and when the guards changed shifts. Her eyes widened. But how would I know that? The detective glanced at his notes. He says you contacted him once before the night of the first rescue. Anna's breath caught in her throat. That is not true. Her grandmother stepped forward sharply. You are not going to stand here and accuse a child of something so foolish. The second detective raised his hands calmly. We are not accusing anyone, ma'am. We are just checking every possibility. Mr. Bennett's eyes were on Anna, his expression troubled but quiet. When the detectives left, the silence that followed was heavy. Anna turned to him, tears stinging her eyes. You do not believe them, do you? She asked. He hesitated for just a second too long. I want to believe you, he said softly. But you were there both times. You knew things no one else could. Her heart dropped. Because I saw them. Because I paid attention. I know, he said quickly, running a hand through his hair. I know, but I have to be sure. I cannot risk Lila being in danger again. The words felt like a door closing. Anna backed away, her small hands trembling. So now you think I am one of them? No, he said, his voice breaking slightly. I just need time to sort this out. You do not need time, she said, her voice quivering. You need trust. Lila stood at the top of the stairs, hearing everything. Daddy, she said softly, Anna would never hurt me. He looked up, his eyes full of exhaustion and confusion. Sweetheart, I know you care for her, but I have to protect you. Lila's voice trembled. She already did. Twice. Anna blinked back tears, her chest aching. It is okay, she whispered to Lila. He is just scared. Mr. Bennett turned toward her, regret in his eyes. I think it is best if you and your grandmother stay home for a few days until everything is clearer. Her grandmother looked at him sharply. You are sending her away? Just for now, he said quietly. Until we know more. Anna's voice came out small. Until you decide if I am a hero or a liar. No one answered. That evening, the black car dropped them back at 9th Street. The neighborhood looked the same as before, the cracked sidewalks, the flickering streetlight, but now it felt lonelier. Anna sat on the porch, her backpack on her knees, the bracelet with the letter L cold against her wrist. Her grandmother made dinner, humming softly to fill the silence. When Anna finally spoke, her voice was thin. He thinks I did something wrong. Her grandmother sighed. Sometimes fear makes people forget who helped them. It does not mean the truth changes. But what if they do not find it? Anna asked. What if they only remember the lie? Her grandmother reached across the table and took her hand. The truth has a way of surviving, baby. It just needs someone brave enough to wait for it. Anna nodded, but sleep did not come easily that night. She stared at the ceiling, replaying every word, every look, every moment that had led to this. Somewhere deep inside, she still trusted that Mr. Bennett would see reason, that he would remember the little girl who had run into danger to save his child. The next morning, she woke to find a letter on the doorstep. The envelope was unmarked, the handwriting unfamiliar. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message written in neat black ink. Sometimes the truth hides where the light does not reach. Be careful who you trust. Anna read it twice, her pulse quickening. She folded it and slipped it into her backpack. If someone was trying to frame her, she had to find out who. Later that afternoon, she walked to the public library, the one place she always went when she needed to think. The librarian smiled at her as she entered. Back again, Anna? Yes, ma'am, she said softly. She sat in the far corner, spreading out her notebook, the letter, and her thoughts. She remembered the man's face, the way he had known her name, the way Mr. Bennett's eyes had changed when he doubted her. Somewhere, the pieces had to fit together. As the sun dipped lower, casting orange light through the tall windows, she whispered to herself, I will prove it. I will show them. She did not know how yet, but she knew she could not stop now. Across town, in the tall glass building of Bennett Enterprises, Mr. Bennett sat alone in his office, staring at the same photograph the police had shown him, the one of the kidnapper's captured phone. A message glowed on the screen. Payment confirmed. The girl will distract them. His hand trembled. He wanted to believe it was a lie, but doubt is a poison that spreads quietly. He closed his eyes, unaware that the real truth was already walking back toward him, in the determined steps of a small girl who refused to be misunderstood. The following morning was gray and heavy, the kind of morning that seemed to sit still before anything truly happened. Anna woke early, her heart already full of questions. The mysterious note from the night before rested on her nightstand, its neat handwriting staring back at her like a secret that refused to fade. She slipped it into her backpack along with her notebook and a pencil, whispering to herself, if I want to clear my name, I have to find out where this came from. Her grandmother was already in the kitchen making oatmeal when Anna appeared. You are up early, she said gently. Anna hesitated before answering. Grandma, if I wanted to go back to the library again today, would that be okay? The older woman studied her face for a moment, her eyes kind but searching. You are not planning anything dangerous, are you? No, ma'am, Anna said quickly. Just reading. Her grandmother smiled faintly. Then go on, but be back before dark. Anna hugged her tightly before leaving. The sky was a pale silver, and the street smelled of rain from the night before. She walked quickly, her small shoes splashing through shallow puddles, her mind racing. At the library, the air was cool and quiet, the soft hum of the ceiling fans filling the silence. She made her way to the computer area and logged into one of the public terminals. She had never used one for anything more serious than schoolwork, but now she typed carefully, how to trace a phone number. Dozens of search results appeared, and she read every word with focus far beyond her years. She learned that sometimes, numbers could be connected to online profiles or delivery orders. That gave her an idea. She pulled the mysterious note from her backpack, studying the paper again. It was smooth, expensive, and faintly scented something she had noticed before in Mr. Bennett's office. Her chest tightened. Could it have come from someone in his company? She knew she could not go back to his office herself, but maybe she could find a clue another way. She copied the company's email address from an old business card she still had from the night of the rescue and opened a blank email draft. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she began to type. Dear Mr. Bennett, I know you think I did something wrong, but I did not. I found a note from someone who knows the truth. It says someone inside is hiding something. Please, you have to believe me. She signed her name and pressed send before fear could stop her. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, Just as she was about to log off, a message appeared in her inbox. It was not from Mr. Bennett. The sender's address was unknown, but the subject line read, "You are getting close." Anna's breath caught. She clicked it open. Inside was a single sentence. "If you want to prove your innocence, go to the construction site on River Street at 6 o'clock. Her hands trembled slightly. She looked around the library, half expecting someone to be watching her, but everyone was quietly reading or typing. She folded the paper again and whispered, 6 o'clock. That afternoon felt endless. She spent it pretending everything was normal, helping her grandmother fold laundry, sweeping the porch, listening to the radio, but her thoughts kept circling back to the message. As the clock neared 5:30, she put on her jacket and slipped out the door. The sun was low, painting the buildings with a fading orange glow. River Street was only a few blocks away, a place she knew from walking home from school. The construction site was large, fenced off, and quiet at that hour. Machines stood still like sleeping giants, and the wind whistled through the metal beams. She pushed through a gap in the fence and stepped inside carefully, her sneakers crunching on gravel. "Hello?" she called softly. "Is anyone here?" A voice answered from the shadows. "You came." Anna turned sharply. A tall man in a dark jacket stepped forward, his face partially hidden by the brim of his hat. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice steady, even though her heart raced. "Someone who knows what you are looking for," he said. "You want to clear your name, do you not?" "Yes," Anna said. "Then you need to see this." He handed her a small flash drive. "Everything you need is on here. Proof that the man who broke into the Bennett house was paid by someone inside the company. Not you, not Mr. Bennett, someone else." Anna stared at the device, unsure whether to trust him. "Why are you helping me?" The man gave a small smile that did not reach his eyes. "Let us just say I do not like liars." Before she could ask another question, he turned and walked away, disappearing behind a stack of crates. She looked down at the flash drive, feeling the weight of it in her palm. She slipped it into her backpack and hurried out of the site, her pulse pounding. As she turned the corner, she nearly collided with a familiar voice. "Anna?" It was Mr. Bennett. He stood near his car, looking both shocked and relieved. "What are you doing here?" She froze, words tangled in her throat. "I was trying to find proof," she said finally. "Proof that I did not do anything wrong." He looked down at her, his expression softening. "You should not be out here alone. It is not safe. Neither was that house," she said quietly. "But I stayed anyway." The honesty in her voice caught him off guard. "Come on," he said gently. "Let me take you home. We will talk about this." As they drove through the city, lights flickering past the windows, Anna sat silently, clutching her backpack. Mr. Bennett glanced at her, his voice low. "Anna, I found something today too. The message on that phone, it was edited. Someone changed your name in it." Her eyes widened. "So you believe me?" He nodded slowly. "I am beginning to." She felt tears sting her eyes but blinked them back. "Then maybe this can help," she said, pulling the flash drive from her pocket. He looked at it, surprised. "What is that?" "Proof," she said simply. "The truth." Outside, the city lights blurred into gold streaks against the dark, and for the first time in days, Anna felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. When the car stopped in front of the Bennett mansion, the night was deep and quiet, filled with the hum of crickets and the faint rustle of trees. Anna stepped out slowly, the small flash drive still clutched in her hand. "Mr. Bennett followed her, his expression thoughtful but cautious, as if the truth itself were something fragile that could break if handled too quickly. Inside the house, the lights were low, the warmth of the lamps casting soft gold on the polished floors. Lila appeared at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, her cane tapping lightly as she made her way down. "Daddy?" she asked. "Where did you go?" "I went to find the truth," he said quietly, glancing toward Anna, "and I think she found it first." Lila's face brightened at the sound of Anna's voice. "You are here. I knew you would come back." Anna smiled, her heart swelling. "I could not let you think I did something wrong." "I never did," Lila said firmly. "Not for a second." Mr. Bennett motioned for them to follow him into his study. The room smelled faintly of cedar and paper, with shelves full of books and framed photographs of Lila when she was younger. He sat behind the large desk, plugging the flash drive into his computer. The screen flickered, then opened a single folder labeled Payments. Inside were a series of documents, names, and transactions. Anna leaned closer, her small hands gripping the edge of the desk. "That is the man from the warehouse," she said, pointing at one of the records. Mr. Bennett nodded. "And look at who authorized the payment," he said quietly. Anna squinted, reading the name out loud. Daniel Crane. The name meant nothing to her, but Mr. Bennett's face hardened. "He is my head of security," he said, his voice heavy with disbelief. "He was supposed to protect us." The files showed everything: dates, sums, and messages that linked the kidnapper directly to Daniel Crane. One message stood out above the rest. It read, "Make it look like an inside job. No one suspects the girl." Mr. Bennett sat back, stunned. "He wanted to destroy my reputation and use you as a distraction." Anna's stomach turned. "He tried to make it look like I helped." "Yes," Bennett said, "and I let him make me believe it." His voice cracked slightly, full of regret. "I am so sorry, Anna." She shook her head. "It was not your fault. He tricked all of us." He nodded slowly, still staring at the screen. "But you saw through what none of us could." He picked up the phone and called Detective Ramirez, explaining what they had found. Within minutes, arrangements were made for the evidence to be collected. When he hung up, the weight in the room seemed to lift slightly, though exhaustion lingered on every face. "It will be over soon," he said softly. "He will not hurt anyone again." Anna nodded but looked uneasy. "Mr. Bennett, what if he knows we found this?" "He cannot do anything now," he said confidently, but somewhere deep in her chest, Anna still felt that quiet instinct, the one that had warned her before danger came. She stayed close to Lila that night, sleeping in the same room to keep her company. The rain began again, light but steady, pattering against the window. Lila whispered through the dark, "Do you think he will ever forgive himself?" Anna thought about Mr. Bennett's face, the way guilt had softened his pride. "Maybe, but he has to forgive the world first." Lila smiled faintly. "You sound like my mom used to." Anna smiled too, her voice gentle. "Then maybe she is talking through me." They fell asleep to the sound of rain and distant thunder, unaware that just a few miles away, in a dark corner of the city, a man sat in a car staring at the same house through binoculars. Daniel Crane's jaw was tight, his eyes cold. The light from his phone screen glowed across his face as he read the message from one of his contacts. "They found it," it said. He crushed the phone in his hand and muttered under his breath, "Not yet, they have not." Back at the mansion, dawn came quietly, painting the world in pale pink and silver. Mr. Bennett was already awake, standing by the window with a cup of coffee. He turned when he heard footsteps. Anna entered, her hair slightly messy from sleep, her eyes still tired but alert. "I could not sleep much," she admitted. "Neither could I," he said. He set down the cup and knelt so he could look her in the eyes. "Anna, you were right from the beginning. I should have trusted you." "You were scared," she said softly. "That makes people see shadows where there are none." "Still," he said, "I owe you more than I can ever repay." "You already did," she replied. "You believed me." He smiled faintly. "From now on, I will never doubt your courage again." The sound of a car pulling up outside interrupted them. It was Detective Ramirez and 2 officers. They collected the flash drive and promised to arrest Crane before sunset. As they left, Anna stood on the porch, watching their car disappear down the long driveway. The air smelled of wet earth and new beginnings. Lila joined her, holding her hand. "Does it feel over now?" she asked. Anna looked toward the horizon. "Almost," she said. "But something tells me it is not the end yet." Inside, Mr. Bennett received a call. His face went pale as he listened. "What do you mean he is gone?" he asked sharply. Anna turned back, her heartbeat quickening. "What happened?" He looked at her, his expression dark. Crane escaped during transfer. The wind outside seemed to pick up at that moment, carrying the faint echo of thunder again. Anna glanced toward the open sky and whispered to herself, "Then the storm is not done after all." The news that Daniel Crane had escaped spread through the Bennett mansion like a cold wind. The morning sunlight that had felt like hope just hours before now seemed too bright, too sharp, cutting through the house with uneasy silence. Mr. Bennett stood by the phone, his voice low but firm as he spoke with Detective Ramirez. "How could this happen?" he demanded. He was supposed to be under guard. The detective's voice on the other end was grim. "There was an ambush during transport. We do not know who helped him, but he is gone. We have alerts out statewide." Mr. Bennett's jaw tightened. "You need to find him before he finds us." When he hung up, Anna and Lila were waiting at the bottom of the stairs. Anna's small face was pale but steady. "He is coming back, is not he?" she asked quietly. Mr. Bennett did not answer right away. "We will be ready if he does," he said finally, though even his tone carried more hope than certainty. Lila clutched her can, her voice trembling. "Daddy, I thought it was over." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "So did I, sweetheart, but storms have a way of circling back." The security team moved quickly, reinforcing doors, checking cameras, and setting new alarms. Still, Anna could not shake the feeling that danger had already slipped past the gates, that fear itself was watching from the shadows. Later that day, while the house buzzed with tension, she sat with Lila in the music room. The air was heavy, and neither girl spoke for a long time. Then Anna said softly, "He is not just angry. He is desperate. People who are desperate make mistakes." Lila turned her face toward her voice. "Do you think he will make one we can stop?" "I think he already did," Anna replied. "He left clues before, maybe he will again." Lila reached out and found Anna's hand. "Then we will listen for them." As night began to fall, the mansion was locked down. Guards patrolled the grounds in pairs. Mr. Bennett stayed awake in his study, staring at the security feeds that flickered across multiple screens. But somewhere beyond those glowing images, beyond the fences and the motion sensors, a car engine idled quietly in the dark. Daniel Crane sat behind the wheel, his face hard and cold, his eyes fixed on the faint lights of the mansion ahead. He whispered to himself, "You took everything from me. Now I will take what matters most to you." Back inside, Anna lay awake again. Sleep had become a stranger to her. She stared at the ceiling, tracing the patterns of shadows cast by the window blinds. A soft knock came at the door. "Come in," she whispered. It was Mr. Bennett. He stepped inside quietly, carrying 2 mugs of warm cocoa. "Could not sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "I keep thinking about him. He will not stop." He handed her one of the mugs. "Neither will we." For a moment they sat in silence. Then Anna looked up. "Mr. Bennett, when my mom passed, my grandma said something I never forgot. She said evil is loud, but truth is patient. Maybe we just have to keep being patient." He smiled faintly. "You are wise beyond your years." "No," she said softly. "I just listen a lot." Down the hall, Lila stirred in her sleep, murmuring something unintelligible. The night seemed endless. Each sound magnified the ticking clock, the whisper of the wind, the occasional creak of the old wood beneath the walls. Around 2 in the morning, one of the outdoor cameras flickered for a moment, then went dark. The security guard in the control room frowned, tapping the monitor. "That is odd," he muttered. He adjusted the angle, but the feed did not return. A second camera blinked off, then another. Before he could radio for help, the lights cut out completely. The mansion plunged into darkness. Mr. Bennett stood up immediately. "Stay here," he told Anna, but she grabbed his arm. "It is him." He nodded grimly, his heart pounding. Emergency lights flickered to life, casting the rooms in eerie red glow. Footsteps echoed from outside, quick, deliberate, getting closer. "To the panic room," Bennett ordered. He grabbed Lila from her room, half guiding, half carrying her as she held tight to her cane. Anna followed close behind, her mind racing. In the hallway, the sound of glass breaking sent chills through her. A figure moved through the shadows near the kitchen. She caught a glimpse of him, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with purpose. "Go," Bennett urged. "Now." They reached the heavy metal door to the panic room. He pressed his hand against the scanner, the lock releasing with a low hiss. "Inside," he said. But just as Anna stepped through, a loud crash shook the hallway. Daniel Crane's voice rang out, sharp and cruel. You cannot hide from me, Bennett. Bennett shoved Anna and Lila inside and turned to face the doorway. Lock it, he shouted. No, Anna cried, trying to grab his sleeve, but the door sealed before she could reach him. The sound of the lock clanging shut echoed like a gunshot. Lila clung to Anna, trembling. He will get hurt, she whispered. No, Anna said firmly, though fear burned in her chest. He will not, he promised. Outside the thick door, the fight began. Shouts, the crash of furniture, the sound of struggle filled the air. Anna pressed her ear against the cold metal, tears in her eyes. Minutes passed like hours. Then, suddenly, everything went quiet. Too quiet. The silence pressed down on her until her pulse became the only sound she could hear. She looked at Lila, who whispered, "Is it over?" Anna swallowed hard. "I do not know." From somewhere in the house, a single noise echoed, a door creaking slowly open. And then, faintly, a voice she recognized, low and defiant. It was Mr. Bennett. "It is over, Crane," he said. But then another voice, colder, closer. "Not until you watch everything you love disappear." Anna's breath caught. She turned to Lila, gripping her hand tightly. "He is still here," she whispered, "and he knows we are too." The air inside the panic room felt heavy, thick with fear and the metallic hum of the ventilation system. Anna stood frozen near the sealed door, her small hand still gripping Lila's trembling fingers. Every sound outside felt magnified, the footsteps, the shuffling, the muffled crash of something breaking. Then, through the reinforced wall, she heard Mr. Bennett's voice again, low but steady. "You will not hurt them," he said. Daniel Crane's voice followed, full of venom. "You already did, Thomas. You hurt them the moment you trusted me." The words sliced through the air like a blade. Lila pressed her ear against the cold metal, her lips trembling. "He is trying to protect us," she whispered. Anna nodded, though her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. The red emergency light in the corner flickered, and for a second, Anna thought she saw shadows moving across the tiny surveillance monitor that showed the main hall. Mr. Bennett was standing near the staircase, a piece of broken glass in his hand, while Crane circled him like a predator. "You built all of this," Crane sneered. "All your wealth, your empire, your guards, and still a little girl brought you down." Bennett's voice was calm, but his hands shook. "She showed me what you could never understand, that power means nothing without compassion." "Compassion," Crane spat, laughing bitterly. "You think that will save you?" "It already did," Bennett replied. "She saved us all." The sound of movement filled the speakers again. A scuffle, a grunt, something heavy falling, then silence. Lila clutched Anna's arm. "Anna," she whispered, "we have to help him." Anna's eyes darted to the control panel beside the door. The panic room was designed to stay locked until the outside was declared safe, but there was an override, an emergency release switch that could open the door manually. "No," Anna said softly. "He told us to stay here." "But if we stay, he might," Lila's voice broke. Anna hesitated for only a moment. Then she took a deep breath and stepped toward the control panel. "If I open it, we have to be quiet. Promise?" Lila nodded, her blind eyes wide and scared but trusting. Anna pressed the sequence of buttons just as she had seen Mr. Bennett do earlier. The lock clicked, the metal door sliding open with a low hiss. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of smoke and dust. The hallway was dim, lit only by the flickering emergency lights. "Stay behind me," Anna whispered, pulling Lila's hand gently. They crept forward, every step cautious. The grand hall stretched before them, broken glass glinting across the floor. A vase lay shattered near the staircase, and one of the paintings hung crooked, a deep tear running through its center. Then they saw him. Mr. Bennett was on the floor near the study door, his arm scraped, his breathing ragged. "Mr. Bennett," Anna cried softly, rushing to his side. He looked up, relief flooding his eyes. "Anna, you should not have come out. We could not leave you," she said firmly. He managed a weak smile. "You are just like your grandmother, too brave for your own good." Lila knelt beside him, her hands reaching for his shoulder. "Where is he?" she whispered. Bennett's face darkened. "He ran toward the east wing. He is trying to reach the back exit." Anna looked around quickly. "We can lock it from the control room." No, Bennett said, shaking his head. It is manual. You would have to go there yourself. His eyes met hers, fear and pride mixing in one desperate look. You are not doing that. But Anna's mind was already made up. If he escapes, he will come back. We have to stop him now. Anna, he said sternly, he is dangerous. So am I, she whispered, her voice trembling but sure. She stood up, her small figure silhouetted against the dim red light, and turned toward the hallway. Lila's voice followed her, soft but certain. I am going with you. Anna shook her head. You cannot see. I can listen, Lila said, gripping her cane, and I can tell where he is before you can. Mister, Bennett tried to protest, but the determination in both girls' faces stopped him. Be careful, he said. He has nothing left to lose. They moved together down the east corridor, the air colder here, the shadows deeper. The sound of their footsteps echoed softly on the marble floor. Somewhere ahead, a door creaked open. Anna froze, motioning for Lila to stop. Then they heard a faint metallic clink, like a gun being loaded. Anna's breath caught. He has a weapon, she whispered. How do we stop him? Lila tilted her head, listening carefully. There is water, she said suddenly. I hear it dripping near the service room. Anna frowned, realizing what she meant. The pipes in the east wing sometimes leaked, especially after heavy rain. If she could trigger the emergency sprinkler system, it would blind him and alert the guards outside. Lila, she said quietly, when I say now, cover your ears. Okay, Lila whispered. Anna slipped toward the service room, her small fingers finding the switch. She hesitated only for a heartbeat, then pulled it hard. The alarm blared instantly, followed by the rush of water from above. Sprinklers exploded across the ceiling, drenching everything in seconds. Crane shouted from somewhere down the hall, blinded by the spray. What is happening? He roared. Anna grabbed Lila's hand and ran. Through the sheets of water, she saw his dark shape moving toward them. Stop, he yelled, raising his weapon. But before he could fire, another voice rang out from behind him deep, commanding, furious. Drop it, Crane, mister. Bennett stood at the far end of the hall, soaked but unyielding, a guard's flashlight in his hand. Crane spun toward him, slipping on the wet floor. The gun clattered from his grasp, sliding across the marble and stopping right at Anna's feet. She stared at it for a moment, her reflection trembling in the puddle beneath it. Bennett lunged forward, tackling Crane before he could recover. The fight was brief and violent, ending with Bennett holding him down until the guards burst through the side door, weapons drawn. Hands where we can see them, one shouted. Crane stopped struggling, his breath heavy, his face twisted with rage. You think this changes anything? He hissed. Bennett looked down at him, his voice calm and cold. It changes everything. The guards hauled Crane to his feet and dragged him away. Anna and Lila stood together, soaked, shaking, but safe. Bennett turned to them, water dripping from his hair, a faint smile breaking through the exhaustion. You two, he said quietly, are braver than anyone I have ever known. Lila reached for Anna's hand and whispered, Told you we could hear the truth. And as the sprinklers continued to rain down around them, the last echo of fear seemed to wash away, leaving only the sound of their steady breathing and the promise of light returning. By the time dawn broke over the Bennett estate, the chaos of the night had finally settled into silence. The sound of rain had faded, replaced by the chirping of morning birds and the distant hum of police vehicles leaving the property. The mansion's marble floors still glistened with water from the sprinklers, but the air now carried a sense of relief, fragile yet real. Anna sat wrapped in a blanket on the staircase, her hair damp and tangled, her small hands cupped around a mug of warm cocoa that one of the house staff had brought her. Lila sat beside her, barefoot and smiling softly, her cane resting against the step. You did it, Lila said quietly. You stopped him. Anna shook her head. We all did. Your dad, the guards, everyone. But you pulled the alarm, Lila reminded her, her smile widening. You made the rain come inside. Anna laughed lightly, the sound small but warm. I guess I did. Across the hall, Mr. Bennett was speaking with Detective Ramirez again, his voice calm but weary. He will be transferred to a federal prison this time. the detective said firmly. There will be no more mistakes. Mr. Bennett nodded. I will make sure of that. And thank you. When the detective left, Bennett turned toward the girls, his expression softening as he saw them sitting together. He walked over and knelt in front of them. I owe you both more than I can ever say, he said quietly. Anna, you have more courage than most people twice your age. And Lila, you are your mother's light. Lila reached out and touched his face gently. We are both your light now, she said. He smiled faintly, his eyes glistening. You are right, both of you are. He turned to Anna, his voice steady. I have made many mistakes, but I want to do something right. I want to make sure you and your grandmother never have to worry again. Anna frowned slightly. You already helped us enough. You gave me a chance to go to school. That was only the beginning, he said. You deserve more than just opportunity. You deserve stability, safety, and a home that believes in you. Anna's chest tightened. A home? If your grandmother agrees, Bennett said carefully, I would like you both to stay here for a while. Not as guests, but as family. You have already saved this house twice. Maybe it is time it became yours too. Anna blinked, unsure what to say. Lila clasped her hand excitedly. Say yes, she whispered. Anna's grandmother appeared then, standing in the doorway with her shawl draped around her shoulders. She had heard everything. Her eyes were full of quiet emotion as she looked at Bennett. You are kind to offer, she said softly, but we have always taken care of ourselves. Bennett nodded respectfully. I understand, but please know this is not charity. It is gratitude and perhaps redemption. The old woman studied him for a long moment, then smiled faintly. Maybe we could stay for a little while, just until things feel normal again. Anna's heart leapt. Really? Her grandmother nodded. Really? But you are still going to school every morning, you hear? Anna laughed, the sound echoing through the grand hall. Yes, ma'am. That afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the windows, the house felt different, softer, fuller, alive. The servants smiled when they passed Anna in the halls, and Lila insisted that the two of them decorate the dining room with paper flowers they made together. Mr. Bennett joined them, awkwardly folding one himself, until the girls burst into laughter. For the first time in years, laughter filled every corner of the mansion. As evening approached, they gathered in the garden for dinner under the open sky. The air was cool and sweet, carrying the scent of jasmine and wet grass. Fireflies danced among the hedges, their small lights flickering like tiny promises. Lila leaned toward Anna and whispered, I think the world feels right again. Anna smiled. Me too, Mr. Bennett raised his glass of lemonade. To courage, he said, and to the two girls who taught me that courage is not about strength, but about heart. Anna blushed. We just did what anyone should do. That may be true, he said, but not everyone does. As they ate, the quiet peace of the evening wrapped around them like a blanket. But beneath that calm, Anna could still feel the faint hum of something bigger, the sense that her life, which had once been small and ordinary, had become part of something extraordinary. Later that night, when everyone had gone to bed, she stood by her window, looking out at the vast garden below. The moon hung low, silver and full, its reflection shimmering across the fountain. She thought of her mother, of everything she had lost, and everything she had found again. We are okay now, she whispered. I promise. Behind her, a soft knock came at the door. It was Mr. Bennett. I wanted to show you something, he said. He led her down the hallway to his study, where a small wooden box sat on the desk. This belonged to my wife, he said gently. She believed in kindness the way you do. She would have loved you. He opened the box to reveal a small gold locket on a chain. Inside was a picture of Lila as a baby in space for one more photo. He handed it to Anna. I think it should be yours. Her eyes filled with tears. I cannot take this. You can, he said softly, because now you are part of this story too. She looked down at the locket, her reflection glimmering in the gold, and whispered, Thank you. When she returned to her room, she placed the locket beside her bracelet with the letter L, symbols of two worlds that had somehow become one. And as she climbed into bed, she felt something she had not felt in a very long time, peace, deep and quiet, like the world itself had finally exhaled. Weeks passed, and the Bennett mansion slowly returned to the rhythm of normal life. The scent of flowers from the garden replaced the memory of smoke and fear, and the sound of laughter drifted through the halls again. Anna had begun her classes at the academy once more, and every morning she rode in the same black car that had once carried her into danger, now taking her toward a new beginning. Lila always rode beside her, her cane resting across her knees, her smile as bright as the sunlight that streamed through the windows. The girls were inseparable. They studied together, shared lunch under the oak tree, and in the afternoons, they practiced piano or sat by the fountain where everything had first begun. The world outside seemed to notice too. Stories about the billionaire's blind daughter and the brave little black girl who had saved her twice appeared in newspapers and on television. But Anna never sought attention. She preferred the quiet moments, the sound of Lila's laughter, her grandmother's voice humming old hymns in the kitchen, and Mr. Bennett's footsteps echoing through the halls as he rebuilt his company with honesty and care. One afternoon, after school, Lila asked Anna, "Do you ever think about what happened?" Anna hesitated, her eyes tracing the ripples in the fountain's water. "Sometimes," she said softly. "But not like before. It feels far away now, like a storm that passed." Lila nodded thoughtfully. "My dad says storms leave the air cleaner after they are gone. Maybe that is what happened to us." Anna smiled. "Maybe." Just then Mr. Bennett appeared at the terrace doorway, holding an envelope. "Girls," he said, "I have something to show you." They hurried over. He opened the envelope and unfolded a letter stamped with the state seal. "It is official," he said with a grin. "Daniel Crane has been sentenced. 25 years with no chance of parole." Lila let out a breath she did not realize she had been holding. "It is really over now," she whispered. "It is," Mr. Bennett confirmed. Anna looked up at him. "Does it feel better?" He nodded. "It feels right." For the rest of the day, the house felt lighter. Even Anna's grandmother, who often carried her worries quietly, allowed herself a laugh that evening as they all sat down for dinner together. The table was full of conversation, Lila talking about her new music class, Mr. Bennett discussing a charity project he planned to start in Anna's name, and Anna describing the stray cat she had seen outside the school gate. "Maybe we should adopt it," Lila suggested, grinning. "Every home needs a guardian cat." "Then this house would have two," Mr. Bennett teased. "One with fur and one with courage." Anna giggled, her cheeks flushing. "Maybe three," she said. "Grandma guards everyone." They all laughed together, and for the first time since the night of the first rescue, there was no trace of fear left in the sound. Later, as the sky turned orange and pink, Mr. Bennett walked with Anna through the garden. The air was cool and full of the scent of roses. "Anna," he began softly, "I want to ask you something important." She looked up at him curiously. "What is it?" "I have been thinking about creating a foundation," he said. "One that helps children who have faced hard things, poverty, loss, danger. I want to call it the Anna Foundation, if you will allow it." Her eyes widened. "After me? After the courage you represent," he said. "You showed me that goodness can change everything, even for people who have lost their way. I want that lesson to reach others." Anna thought for a moment, her voice quiet when she answered, "If it helps other kids feel safe, then yes." He smiled, moved by her humility. "It will." In the days that followed, plans began to take shape. Journalists wrote about the upcoming launch, donors offered support, and the city itself seemed to rally around the story of kindness and redemption. But Anna remained grounded, spending her afternoons where she felt happiest by Lila's side, teaching her to recognize the world through sound and touch. "That is a maple tree," Anna would say, placing Lila's hand on the rough bark. "The leaves feel like tiny stars," Lila would smile and reply. "Then you are the one who showed me how to see stars without my eyes." As autumn came, the leaves began to fall in golden waves across the garden. One evening, Anna and her grandmother stood on the porch watching the sunset. The sky burned with streaks of crimson and gold, and the air smelled of wood smoke from distant chimneys. "You did something beautiful here, baby," her grandmother said softly. "You changed people." Anna leaned her head against her shoulder. I just did what was right. That is what makes it beautiful, the old woman replied. Inside, the sound of a piano drifted through the open window, Lila playing, her fingers tracing each note with confidence and joy. Bennett joined in with a soft hum, and for a moment, everything felt perfectly whole. Anna looked out at the horizon one last time and whispered, Mom, we are okay now. The wind stirred gently, as if carrying her words away into the sky. She turned back toward the warm glow of the house, where love had finally replaced fear, and where a little girl who once ran through the rain to save a stranger had found something far greater than safety. She had found belonging. Winter arrived quietly, wrapping the Bennett estate in a soft blanket of snow. The once green gardens were now fields of white, the fountain frozen in mid-splash like a sculpture of glass. Inside the mansion, the air was filled with warmth, laughter, and the faint sound of a fire crackling in the hearth. Anna sat near the window, tracing little hearts and stars into the frost that had gathered on the glass. Behind her, Lila was decorating a Christmas tree with the help of her father and Anna's grandmother. Is this one straight? Lila asked, holding an ornament delicately between her fingers. Perfect, Anna said, smiling. You always say that, Lila teased. Because it always is, Anna replied. Mr. Bennett laughed softly, hanging a golden star near the top. You two could turn this old house into a Christmas card. That is because it finally feels like one, Anna's grandmother said gently. Home. Her voice lingered on that word, warm and full. The firelight flickered across her face, and for a moment, silence settled in a comfortable, grateful kind of silence. But it was broken a moment later by the distant sound of a doorbell. Mr. Bennett wiped his hands and went to answer it. A man in a dark coat stood outside, snow dusting his shoulders. Delivery for Miss Anna and Miss Lila, he said, handing over a small wooden box tied with red ribbon. Mr. Bennett thanked him, closed the door, and carried the box to the living room. Well, he said, looks like someone sent you both a Christmas surprise. Anna tilted her head. Who would send us something? Lila reached out, her hands brushing the box. It feels like wood. Maybe it is music. Anna untied the ribbon carefully and opened the lid. Inside, a delicate snow globe gleamed under the soft lights. Inside it was a tiny figure of two girls standing beside a frozen fountain, surrounded by falling snow. At the base, a small plaque read, "To the ones who brought light into the storm." Lila's lips parted in surprise. It is us, she whispered. Anna nodded, turning the globe gently in her hands. It is beautiful. Mr. Bennett studied it with quiet wonder. There is no note? No, Anna said. Just this. Her grandmother smiled knowingly. Sometimes gifts do not need names. The world has a way of saying thank you when you least expect it. The rest of the evening unfolded in laughter. They baked cookies, sang carols by the piano, and shared stories of Christmases past. Anna's favorite moment came when Lila sat down to play the same song that had once echoed through the warehouse the night she was rescued. Only this time, the melody was full of warmth, not fear. Anna hummed softly along, her eyes shining. It sounds happy now, she said. It feels happy, Lila replied. Later that night, after the house had gone quiet, Anna stood by the window again. Snow continued to fall, soft and endless, covering the world in stillness. She thought about everything that had happened, the fear, the danger, the courage it had taken to stand up when no one else would. She whispered into the silence, "Thank you." Behind her, Mr. Bennett appeared, a cup of cocoa in his hand. "Could not sleep?" he asked. "Too much cocoa," Anna admitted with a grin. He chuckled and joined her by the window. "It has been quite a year," he said. "The hardest one of my life, and somehow, the best." Anna nodded. "Because it showed what matters." "Exactly," he said softly. "You taught me that." They watched the snow together for a while, the only sound the faint pop of the fire downstairs. After a moment, "Mr. Bennett said quietly, "Tomorrow, we are going to the hospital." Anna looked up at him. "Why?" "Because the doctors say Lila might be ready for something new, a surgery, a chance to see again." Her breath caught. "Really?" Really, he said, smiling. And she wants you there. Anna's eyes filled with light. Of course I will be there. The next morning, the city was blanketed in snow as they drove to the hospital. Lila sat between her father and Anna, her cane resting beside her, her fingers nervously twisting the bracelet Anna had given her. Are you scared? Anna asked softly. Lila nodded. A little. What if it does not work? Anna squeezed her hand. Then nothing changes. You will still see the world better than anyone I know. Lila smiled. And what if it does work? Then you will finally see how much light you bring to everyone, Anna said. Mr. Bennett's eyes glistened as he listened. At the hospital, doctors greeted them warmly and explained the procedure. Lila's surgery would take several hours. When she was taken to the operating room, Anna sat with Mr. Bennett and her grandmother in the waiting area, her small hands folded tightly in prayer. Hours passed, the clock ticking softly on the wall. Then a doctor finally emerged, his face breaking into a smile. The surgery went well, he said. She will need time to recover, but we believe her sight will return. Mr. Bennett exhaled, his shoulders sagging in relief. Anna's eyes filled with tears of joy. She did it, she whispered. When Lila woke, the room was bathed in soft morning light. Bandages still covered her eyes, but her voice was calm and full of hope. Anna? She murmured. I am here, Anna said, holding her hand. When they take these off, Lila said, smiling, you will be the first person I want to see. Anna's throat tightened, and she whispered back, then I will make sure I am smiling. Outside, the snow kept falling, silent and endless, like a promise that the world, after everything, still knew how to heal. Days passed slowly in the hospital, each one filled with cautious hope and quiet prayers. The snow outside began to melt, and with it came the promise of spring. The halls smelled faintly of disinfectant and coffee, the steady beeping of machines forming a strange kind of rhythm that everyone had grown used to. Lila's room was always full of warmth. Flowers lined the windowsill, cards covered the walls, and Anna sat beside her almost every day, reading stories aloud. You read beautifully, Lila said one afternoon, smiling under the bandages that still covered her eyes. I like how you make all the voices sound different. Anna grinned. That is my secret talent. I can be anyone I read. Lila laughed softly. Maybe that is why you were brave that night. You believed you could be someone stronger. Maybe, Anna said thoughtfully, closing the book. Or maybe I just did not know I was supposed to be scared. Outside the room, Mr. Bennett stood quietly by the doorway, listening. His face was calm, but his hands were clasped tightly in front of him. He had seen his daughter face danger, pain, and fear, but never like this, never with so much hope on the line. Anna's grandmother joined him, her kind eyes resting on him. She is a strong child, she said softly. Both of them are. They are the strongest people I have ever met, he admitted. I used to think strength meant control. Now I think it means faith. The next morning, the doctor came in with a gentle smile. If everything looks good, we can remove the bandages today, he said. Lila's heart raced. Today, he confirmed, but we will take it slow. The light might be overwhelming at first. When the doctor left, Anna squeezed Lila's hand. Are you ready? She asked. I have been ready for years, Lila whispered. Mr. Bennett stood on one side of the bed, Anna on the other, and the doctor began to unwind the soft gauze. Each layer felt like time itself unraveling. The room was silent except for the faint rustle of fabric. When the final strip fell away, Lila blinked rapidly, tears forming in her eyes as the world began to glow around her. It is so bright, she whispered. Can you see? Mr. Bennett asked, his voice breaking. Slowly, Lila turned her head toward him. I think so, she said, her voice trembling. Everything is blurry, but it is there. She squinted, focusing hard, and then gasped softly. Dad? He froze, his throat tightening. Yes, sweetheart, it is me. Her lips quivered into a smile. You look just like I remembered. He reached for her hand, his eyes glistening. You did it, he whispered. You really did it. Lila turned next toward the other side of the bed, blinking through tears. The first thing she saw was a small, dark-skinned girl with wide brown eyes and a trembling smile. "Anna," she said softly, as if testing the sound. "You are even more beautiful than I imagined." Anna's heart flooded with emotion. "You can see me?" "I can see you," Lila whispered, her voice full of awe. "I can really see you." The two girls fell into each other's arms, laughing and crying all at once. Mr. Bennet turned away for a moment, wiping his face. Even Anna's grandmother, who had seen more hardship than most, had to dab at her eyes with her handkerchief. "You two were meant to find each other," she said gently. Over the next few days, Lila's vision strengthened, the blur slowly sharpening into color and shape. She spent hours looking out the window, describing the world to Anna as if she were rediscovering it for both of them. "The sky is lighter than I thought," she said one morning. "And trees are greener than dreams." Anna laughed. "You are good at this. Maybe you should write poetry." "Maybe I will," Lila said. "You can be my editor." When she was finally discharged from the hospital, the staff gathered to see her off. Cameras flashed outside, reporters eager for a glimpse of the miracle, but Mr. Bennet kept it small and private. He guided Lila and Anna into the car, shielding them from the noise. "Let us just go home," he said quietly. Back at the mansion, everything felt new again. The sunlight pouring through the windows seemed warmer, the colors richer. Lila stood in the garden, staring up at the sky, her eyes wide with wonder. "I forgot how big the world looks," she said. Anna stood beside her. "It never stopped being big. You just see it differently now." Lila smiled, turning toward her. "You are my favorite color." Anna laughed. "What color is that?" "The color of brave," Lila said. Inside the house, Mr. Bennet watched from the window, his heart full. He had spent years building walls of money and pride, but it was two little girls who had taught him how to open doors instead. That evening, they all sat together by the fire again. Lila's vision was still adjusting, but she could see the shapes of flames dancing in the hearth, and the reflection of Anna's face glowing in the light. "You know what I think?" she said. "What?" Anna asked. "I think the world gives back what you give to it. You gave it kindness, and it gave you home." Anna looked into the fire, her small hands folded in her lap. "Then maybe we should keep giving." "We will," Lila said, "forever." And as the firelight flickered across their faces, the world outside the window glimmered under the last traces of melting snow, a world reborn through love, courage, and the quiet power of two children who refused to give up on the light. Spring had painted the Bennet estate in colors so bright they looked almost unreal. The trees bloomed in shades of pink and white, and the garden that once stood silent after storms now sang with birdsong and laughter. It had been 3 months since Lila's surgery, and her recovery had been nothing short of miraculous. Her sight had returned fully, sharp and clear, and every day she seemed to discover the world all over again. "You have no idea how many colors there are until you see them twice," she said one morning as she and Anna sat near the fountain. "Once in your mind, and once in the world." Anna smiled. "Maybe that is why you see them better than most people." Lila turned to her, her eyes shining. "No, it is because you made me look for the light." Their laughter drifted across the garden where Mr. Bennet was meeting with a group of visitors from the new Anna Foundation. The charity had launched only weeks earlier, but already it was making headlines for providing safe housing, education, and care for children in need. Mr. Bennet had made it clear that this was not about his redemption but about carrying forward what Anna had taught him, the power of small acts of courage. Reporters often asked Anna for interviews, but she always gave the same quiet answer: "I am just happy we could help." That afternoon, a celebration was held in the mansion's great hall to mark the foundation's official opening. The space had been transformed with white flowers and golden ribbons, sunlight streaming through the tall glass windows. Guests filled the room, from city officials to teachers to families who had already benefited from the program. Anna stood near the edge of the crowd, her grandmother beside her, both dressed in soft blue. Lila approached, wearing a simple yellow dress that made her look like the first day of spring. "You ready?" she asked. Anna nodded nervously. "Do I have to say something?" "It is your foundation," Lila said with a grin. "They want to hear you." Mr. Bennet joined them, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You do not have to be anyone but yourself, Anna. Just speak from your heart. That is what got us here." When it was time, he led her to the small stage. The murmur of the crowd softened, and all eyes turned to the little girl standing under the soft lights. Anna took a deep breath, her small hands trembling slightly as she held the microphone. "Hi," she began, her voice clear but gentle. "I am not good with big words, so I will just tell you a small story. Once, a long time ago, I was scared of the dark. But one day, I met someone who could not see the light at all. And she taught me that light is not just something you see, it is something you feel, something you share. So, this foundation is not really about me. It is about everyone who has ever been brave enough to care, even when it is hard." The room was silent, every face touched by her words. "When you help someone," she continued, "you do not just change their world, you change your own. And I think that is what being alive is for." When she finished, the room erupted into applause. Mr. Bennett's eyes were wet with pride, and Lila clapped so hard she almost dropped her bouquet. Anna smiled shyly and stepped down, where her grandmother pulled her into a hug. "You spoke like an angel," she whispered. "I just told the truth," Anna said softly. Later, as the guests mingled, Mr. Bennett took the stage to make one final announcement. "Tonight, I would like to honor the two people who inspired all of this," he said. "Two girls who reminded me that love and courage can rebuild even the most broken hearts." He gestured for Anna and Lila to join him. The crowd applauded again as they stepped up. "From this day forward," he said, "the Anna Foundation and the Bennett Trust will work together to make sure every child, no matter where they come from, has a chance to find their light." Cameras flashed as he handed each girl a small gold pin shaped like a star. "For the stars who lit the way," he said quietly. After the event, when the guests had left and the music had faded, the family gathered outside under the stars. The night was cool and clear, the air full of crickets and the faint scent of magnolia. "You did beautifully," Lila said. "You too," Anna replied. "You looked like sunshine." "Do you think it is really over now?" Lila asked, looking up at the sky. Anna thought for a moment. "Maybe not over," she said. "Maybe just beginning." Mr. Bennett joined them, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate, steam rising in the cool air. "You know," he said, "I used to think building something meant putting up walls. Now I see it is about building bridges instead." "You built both," Anna said, smiling. "You built a bridge right to us." He looked at her with quiet gratitude. "No, Anna, you built it first." They stood together under the night sky, the stars reflecting in the fountain's still water. For the first time in a long time, there was no shadow of fear, no echo of loss, only the sound of peace, laughter, and the unshakable bond that had turned strangers into family. And when Anna looked up at the stars, she thought she saw one shining a little brighter, as if someone up there was smiling back, proud of the light they had created together. The sun rose softly over the Bennett estate, its light spilling across the fields like a golden tide. It had been 1 full year since the night everything changed. 1 year since a frightened little girl ran through the rain and changed the heart of a man who thought he had seen everything. Now, the world around them was blooming again, full of laughter, color, and purpose. The morning air carried the scent of dew and roses as Anna walked through the garden in her school uniform, her backpack bouncing against her shoulder. She stopped at the fountain, the same fountain where she had once hidden, afraid and cold, and smiled at her reflection rippling in the water. Behind her came the sound of footsteps. Lila appeared, wearing a bright scarf, her vision sharp and clear, her eyes full of life. "You are up early," Lila said with a grin. "I wanted to see the sunrise," Anna replied. "It feels like the world is saying good morning to us." "Then we should say good morning back," Lila said playfully, waving at the sky. "Good morning, world." Anna laughed, her voice ringing through the garden. From the terrace, Mr. Bennett watched them with quiet pride, his coffee steaming in the cool air. Anna's grandmother joined him, a shawl draped around her shoulders. "They remind me of what faith looks like," she said softly. "It is not about seeing everything. It is about believing through the dark." He nodded slowly. "I used to think success meant power. Now I know it means peace." The 2 children ran toward them, their laughter echoing. "Breakfast time," Lila announced. "Grandma made pancakes." "And bacon too," Anna added. "You said it was your favorite." Mr. Bennett smiled. "You remembered." We remember everything good, Anna said proudly. Inside, the house felt alive. The kitchen smelled of butter and syrup. Sunlight poured through the windows, and on the refrigerator was a photo of all four of them: Anna, Lila, Mr. Bennett, and Grandma, taken at the foundation's opening ceremony. Beneath it, in neat handwriting, was a quote Anna had written: "Kindness is the only thing that grows when you give it away." After breakfast, they all headed into town for a community event organized by the foundation. The local park was full of children playing, families gathering, and volunteers wearing bright blue shirts with the foundation's logo, a small golden heart inside an open hand. A stage had been set up near the playground, decorated with balloons and banners that read "1 year of light." Anna and Lila were asked to speak again, but this time, Anna felt no nervousness. She had found her voice, and the world seemed ready to listen. When it was her turn, she stepped forward, the microphone in her hand, and looked out at the crowd. "When we first started," she said softly, "we did not know how big this could become. We just wanted to help. But I learned something this year, that helping someone is like planting a seed. You do not always see it grow right away, but one day, it becomes a tree that gives shade to everyone around it." Lila smiled beside her, her eyes glistening. "And if you ever think you are too small to make a difference," Anna continued, "remember that even a candle can light up the dark." The crowd applauded, and in that sound was something more than approval. It was gratitude, belief, hope. After the speeches, Anna and Lila walked to a small tree that had been planted in the center of the park. A plaque at its base read, "In honor of the brave hearts who bring light to others." Lila touched the tree gently. "It is young," she said, "but it will grow tall." "Like us," Anna said with a grin. "Exactly," Lila replied. "Strong roots, open branches." As the day went on, they helped hand out food, play with the children, and talk to families who had found help through the foundation. Mr. Bennett moved quietly among the crowd, shaking hands, listening to stories, his pride never loud but always visible in his eyes. By evening, the sun dipped low over the horizon, painting the sky in gold and pink. The park was quieting, the laughter softening into the sound of crickets and wind. Anna sat on the grass, her knees pulled to her chest, watching the tree sway gently. "Do you ever think about that night?" Lila asked, sitting beside her. "Sometimes," Anna said. "Not the fear, though. Just the moment I decided to run instead of hide." Lila nodded. "That was the moment everything changed." "Maybe it was the moment everything began," Anna said. They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars blink awake above them. Mr. Bennett and Grandma stood nearby, their silhouettes outlined against the fading light. "You know," Lila said softly, "when I could not see, I used to imagine what light looked like. I always thought it would be bright and perfect. But now that I can see it, I realize it is not about brightness at all. It is about warmth. It is about how it makes you feel." Anna smiled, leaning back on her hands. "Then maybe we were both light all along." Lila looked at her and whispered, "We still are." As night settled over the park, lanterns began to glow, hundreds of small lights floating upward into the dark sky. Families watched in awe, children pointing and laughing. One by one, the lanterns rose higher until they looked like stars. Anna closed her eyes for a moment, her heart full, and whispered a silent thank you to her mother, to the world, to the second chance they had all been given. When she opened them again, the lanterns shimmered above, reflecting in her eyes like constellations. Lila took her hand, their fingers intertwining. "Look," she said. "It is our light, Anna. It is everywhere now." Anna nodded, her voice soft but sure. "And it will never go out." The wind carried the lanterns higher, over the trees, over the city, until they disappeared into the endless night, leaving behind only their glow, a promise that kindness, once given, lives forever.